What in the holy mother of dragons happened here? Greetings and salutations, fellow cynics and scallywags. The much-hyped third episode of Game of Thrones has aired, and oh boy, there is a lot to unpack here. As always, I will be going heavy into spoiler territory in this video. So if you are not caught up with the show and don't want to know all of the details as to what happened during the events of Battle of Winterfell, I suggest you stop now and come back when you are caught up. You have been warned, dear friends. As the great Odin movie blog says, there is a big difference between subjectivity and objectivity. You can subjectively like something, but also be objective. When it comes to the Battle of Winterfell, I enjoyed it from a subjective standpoint. However, from an objective point of view, there are many, and I emphasize many, flaws in this episode. First off, I will start off with what I did consider a plus. I thought the first act of the episode was quite enjoyable. The setup was nice, and I loved how tense the episode got with the prepping for battle. The scene where the Dothraki torches started fading in the distance one by one was absolutely chilling. The fight on the wall with Jaime, Brienne, Podrick, and Sam was a thrilling sight to behold. I also enjoyed the cat and mouse game between Arya and the Whites before getting saved by the Hound and Beric. Lyanna Mormont went out like an absolute badass. Jorah's death was absolutely heartbreaking, and Theon had a worthy redemption prior to his inevitable death. Unfortunately, that is all I can think of that I would consider positives about the episode. As I stated before, there are many flaws that were just hard for me to completely ignore. After such an intense start, the episode quickly descended into an absolute clusterfuck. I understand that this is a huge battle involving over 100,000 soldiers, but it was too dark to see. And between the darkness, the hyperactive editing, and the constant overuse of shaky handheld cameras, keeping up with what was going on quickly became impossible. And now we get to the nitty-gritty of what I consider to be the worst elements of this episode. First off, the plot armor. Never in my lifetime did I think that D&D would take a page from the playbook of The Walking Dead in terms of handing out character immunity cards like they're free coupons. But holy Christ on a cracker, they did just that. The major reoccurring characters we lost can be counted on the fingers of one hand. It detracts from the impact of the battle that so few main characters got killed off. Thousands of soldiers died to stop the invasion of Winterfell, but we didn't know any of them. And so we have a weird emotional disconnect from the events of the episode. In order to bring all those deaths home, they really needed to kill more people we actually cared about. And the fact that they didn't doesn't speak positively to their writing ability. The most charitable interpretation I can give it is that they're hesitant to dump anyone because they don't know who George Martin's planning to kill off in the books or when. But it doesn't feel like a wise decision to hold all of these characters in reserve. In fact, it reeks of cowardice. Now to address the elephant in the room, the death of the Night King and his army. The way they chose the storyline can be summed up in a single word: anti-climax. The White Walkers have been set up as the main overarching threat of Game of Thrones from the beginning of the first episode. It makes no logical sense that they should be defeated at this time, or that Jon Snow, who has been set up from the very beginning as their primary enemy, who was brought back from fucking death to oppose the Night King, should have no part at all in the Night King's death. The position Jon should have had was given to Arya instead, and she finishes the whole thing with one quick thrust of a knife. You can say all you want about how she had that scene with Melisandre in season 3, therefore that justifies her getting to finish off the Night King, but that excuse is utter giant's shit. First off, Melisandre was extremely vague as to the type of role Arya would play in the battle against the undead. It could have easily been prophesied that she would fight side by side with Jon against the Night King and the White Walkers. That would have been a bigger payoff than the pile of direwolf turds that D&D served up. Secondly, Jon got nearly an entire episode of setup dating back to Hardhome in season 5. That is 2.5 fucking seasons of story building around Jon, only for him to be completely robbed of the most important moment in his arc. Probably more important than the reveal of his true parentage, if you ask me. I'm sorry, but again, Jon didn't die and get resurrected just to be told he's the true heir to the Iron Throne, a title that he has vehemently said that he didn't even want to begin with. He was meant to be Azor Ahai. If he wasn't, then maybe they should have just kept him dead and resurrected a slain Arya if she was the intended person to defeat the Night King. 7 seasons of buildup. 7 goddamn seasons, and this was the ending the White Walkers got. It was too quick, too lacking in emotional resonance, and it undid all of the careful building of backstory the creators have been doing, not to mention all of the prophecies that now seem to be completely fucked. Honestly, the Night King's death should have happened in the final episode of the show, at the God's Eye or at the gates of King's Landing. In the wake of the threat he represented, Cersei Lannister looks about as dangerous as a jackrabbit by comparison. Positioning her as the final villain of the series is a failure of tone. Honestly, I thought one of the major themes of Game of Thrones was that all of the petty squabbles and power struggles over the Seven Kingdoms were a suicidal waste of time with the greater existential threat hanging over them. The name of George R. R. Martin's story is called A Song of Ice and Fire for a reason. But that threat, as it turns out, was dispensed within 3 fucking episodes. And now they've got nothing better to offer us for the rest of the show than this wine-swilling queen, I want to talk to your manager. It's pretty goddamn hard not to feel let down by that. Don't get me wrong, Cersei is a delightful villain, but she's about as threatening as a church mouse next to the fucking Night King. I'm going to have a hard time believing that all these characters who managed to survive the White Walkers are going to die to her. Something like that would require a great deal of stupidity and out-of-character behavior, and I'm not really looking forward to how the show proposes to resolve this. Now, if you really liked this episode, fine. I'm not going to personally go to your post and shit on you for your opinions. It is perfectly okay to subjectively like something. However, you cannot ignore that objectively, there are a great many things about it that were more or less guaranteed to divide the fanbase. Perhaps it was an attempt to subvert our expectations, but I can't help feeling this might be one case where it would have been better and truer to the show for them to put off the subversion until later. We were girding ourselves, waiting for the inevitable deaths, and then we didn't get them. The show has made us suffer before. Think of the Red Wedding. Why didn't it have the guts to make us suffer now? And these are just some of my own personal opinions. If you would like to share your thoughts, please feel free to add a comment down below. And thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Cynical Lindsay, signing off.